After stumbling upon a horrifying gangland murder, schoolteacher Ray Brooks becomes the target of dangerous criminals. These gangsters track him down, and in a brutal act of revenge, they murder his wife and 2 adult children in front of him. Left for dead and with zero trust in the British legal system, Ray decides to take justice into his own hands. The story kicks off with a disoriented man waking up in a hospital bed. It's Ray. His vision is foggy, and as he starts coming to his senses, a doctor approaches him and greets him by name. The doctor asks how he's feeling, but Ray's first concern is his family. However, the doctor sidesteps the question. Instead, he explains that Ray had been in a medically induced coma for 3 months due to a severe chest injury. He reassures Ray that his recovery has been smooth, but still avoids discussing his family. Ray presses again, but the doctor only tells him that the police will come to talk to him soon. This evasive response leaves Ray uneasy. The scene shifts to an interrogation room, where Ray is being questioned by a police officer named Shelby. Ray starts recounting the nightmare that unfolded. He tells Shelby about the night he and his wife, Kim, were driving home. They had gotten lost, and Ray pulled over to check the map in the trunk of their car. That's when he saw 3 men viciously beating a young man nearby. Before he could react, a 4th man arrived, clearly the leader. His name was Frank Noonan. Without hesitation, Frank grabbed a gun from one of his men and executed the young man in cold blood. Ray, frozen in terror, watched the scene unfold. But when the men noticed him, he panicked, jumped back into his car, and sped off before they could catch him. Inside the car, Kim could tell something was seriously wrong and asked what happened. Shaken, Ray admitted he had just witnessed a murder. Kim urged him to call the police, but Ray, still in shock, refused. He explained that these men were dangerous gangsters, and getting involved could put their entire family in jeopardy. Back in the interrogation room, Shelby shows Ray a series of photos, asking him to identify the men who later came to his house. Ray hesitates and then asks if identifying them means he would have to testify in court. When Shelby confirms, Ray immediately shuts down. Terrified, he tells Shelby that if he testifies against these criminals, they'll kill him long before the trial even starts. Despite Shelby's offer of police protection, Ray refuses to cooperate. Shelby leaves him with a business card, encouraging him to reach out if he changes his mind. Alone in the room, Ray's fear and uncertainty are palpable. Later, Ray returns to his now empty house. As he approaches the front door, he notices a pile of mail scattered on the ground. He picks up one of the letters, and as he reads it, his expression changes. Overwhelmed with sadness, tears stream down his face. The grief triggers a flashback to a happier time with his family. In the memory, Ray is at home with Kim and their 2 kids, Victoria and Max. It's a cheerful morning with everyone gathered around the breakfast table, laughing and chatting. Max playfully teases Victoria about having an older boyfriend, causing Ray to chuckle and give Victoria a gentle warning to be cautious. The scene is warm and loving, but as the memory fades, Ray is brought back to the harsh reality of his loss. Alone in the empty house, the weight of his sorrow is crushing. Desperate to escape his thoughts, Ray heads to the kitchen and pours himself a drink. The alcohol dulls his pain momentarily, but it also pulls him into another flashback. This time, he remembers the day he discussed the execution he witnessed with Kim. She had been concerned and asked him what he planned to do. Ray admitted he knew he should report it but was torn. He didn't want to drag their family into the dangerous world of these gangsters. Kim, understanding his fear, reassured him that she'd stand by whatever decision he made. The memory is bittersweet, highlighting the love and support they shared. Back in the present, Ray's despair starts to morph into determination. Sitting in a dimly lit room, he lays out photos of the gangsters. His gaze fixes on one in particular, Billy. With grim resolve, Ray circles Billy's face with a marker and draws a line through it. A flashback takes us to the first time Billy appeared at Ray's home. He knocked on the door, and when Kim answered, he claimed he was looking for his lost dog. Kim, unaware of any danger, stepped into the backyard to check. Meanwhile, Billy took the opportunity to scan the inside of the house, his eyes lingering on details that seemed to interest him. When Kim returned and said there was no dog, Billy thanked her politely but left with a lingering glance at the house. It was clear he was scouting the place. In the present, Ray's focus is unwavering. He stalks Billy's online profiles, gathering every detail about him. Another flashback takes us to the horrifying night when Billy, along with another gangster named Connor, broke into Ray's home. Billy crept into Max's room and dragged the terrified family downstairs. Ray, already tied to a chair, watched helplessly as his family was forced to kneel before their ruthless leader, Kane. Calm and composed, Kane ordered Billy to shoot Kim. Without hesitation, Billy pulled the trigger, killing her instantly. Ray's screams of anguish filled the room as he watched his family's lives being torn apart. Back in the present, Ray has had enough. He's ready to strike. Armed with a knife, he heads to Billy's apartment. Inside, Billy is busy cooking drugs and injecting himself, already slipping into a drug-induced haze. Ray sneaks in quietly and confronts him. Caught off guard, Billy is barely coherent. Ray demands the names of the others who were involved in the attack on his family, but Billy, defiant even in his drug state, refuses. Without warning, Ray stabs Billy in the leg, causing him to scream in pain. Ray's fury is unrelenting as he orders Billy to cook more drugs and inject himself again. In a desperate attempt to fight back, Billy tries to turn the needle on Ray, but Ray reacts swiftly. With one brutal, calculated move, Ray plunges the knife into Billy, killing him instantly. Ray stumbles back home, bloodied and shaken. He scrubs himself clean, washing away the crimson reminders of whatever just went down. Then, we jump to a flashback. Connor's following Victoria to a nightclub. She senses something is off, tells him she's waiting for someone, and quickly leaves. But Connor's not giving up that easily. Once she's gone, he sneaks into her room, finds her underwear, and does something disturbingly creepy, sniffing them. Yeah, major red flags here. Switching to the present, Officer Shelby pays Ray a visit. He shows Ray a picture of a guy named Billy and asks if he knows him. Ray, trying to play it cool, denies any connection. But then Shelby drops a bombshell. Billy was found dead earlier that day. He also mentions that Billy was part of Frank Noonan's gang and suggests this group might have had a hand in Ray's family's murder. The warning is clear. Ray might still be in danger. Frustrated, Ray snaps back, saying he's not going to spend the rest of his life scared just because he got tangled up with the wrong people. He's also got zero faith in the justice system, claiming it won't protect him or give him the justice he wants. Another flashback rolls in. Victoria, clearly scared out of her mind, begs the gangsters to let her use the bathroom. Connor, who's holding her hostage, reluctantly agrees and takes her there. But when they're alone, he unties her. Not out of kindness, though. He warns her not to try anything stupid and demands to see her room. It's pretty obvious what his intentions are, but before he can act, Kane storms in, putting a stop to whatever Connor was planning. Kane then drags both Victoria and Connor back downstairs, squashing Connor's sick agenda. Fast forward to the present, and Connor's panicking big time. He's frantically making calls, grabbing his car keys, and getting ready to bolt. But the moment he gets in his car, he's greeted with a gun in his face. It's Ray, alive and ready for payback. Connor, scared out of his mind, tries to explain that he was just following orders, but Ray's not buying it. He coldly tells Connor that they're all guilty. Cue another flashback. Kane orders Connor to shoot Victoria, and without hesitation, Connor does it. Back in the present, Connor's piecing it all together. Ray must have killed Billy and is now coming for him. Desperate, Connor tries to fight back, even slashing Ray with a knife, but Ray manages to grab Connor's gun and shoots him. After the fight, Ray heads home, patches himself up, and tries to regroup. The next morning, Officer Shelby is back at Ray's doorstep. He informs Ray that Connor's been found dead and, surprise, he was also part of Frank Noonan's gang. Shelby's connecting the dots, saying all these murders are linked, and he asks if he can search Ray's house for clues. Ray flat out refuses, telling Shelby to come back with a warrant. Frustrated but knowing he's got no choice, Shelby leaves. In another flashback, Kane forces Ray to hand over all phones, laptops, and anything that could incriminate the gang. Ray begs him to leave his family out of it, but Kane's icy response is that it's just business. Cut to the present. Kane gets a letter with a list of his dead men, a not-so-subtle reminder of the havoc Ray's been wreaking. Back in a flashback, as Kane is terrorizing Ray's family, Max, Ray's son, tries to escape. He hides in a closet, but Kane finds him and drags him out. In a horrifying moment, Kane kills Max right in front of Ray and Kim, leaving them helpless and shattered. In the present, Kane meets with Frank, who demands an update. Kane tells him that Ray's still alive and closing in. Frustrated, Frank orders Kane to take Ray out once and for all. Kane tails Ray in his car, planning his next move, while Shelby's also tracking the situation, keeping tabs on both men. Another flashback shows Ray confronting Kane, asking why he's doing all this. Kane's chilling reply, "Because I can?" Fueled by rage and determination, Ray swears to hunt Kane down no matter what. Before Ray can act, though, Kane shoots him. Back in the present, Kane enters a building, unaware that Ray's right behind him, armed and ready. A gunfight breaks out, with Kane taking cover behind some boxes. Shelby arrives at the scene, grabbing a gun from his trunk, ready to intervene. The shootout intensifies with Ray and Kane facing off. Eventually, they're standing right in front of each other, guns aimed and ready to fire. Just as they're about to pull the trigger, Shelby steps in and orders them to drop their weapons. Neither backs down. In a decisive moment, Shelby shoots Kane, who looks at him in shock before collapsing. Shelby stands firm, telling Kane that justice has finally been served. And with that, Kane's reign of terror ends. After the showdown, Shelby advises Ray to skip town immediately. He warns that the police will be coming for him, and it's best to avoid getting caught up in the aftermath. This time, Ray listens. He drives away, leaving the chaos behind. Later, Ray ends up at a dimly lit pub, looking for a moment of peace. As he sits at the bar, Frank walks in, casually scanning the room. He doesn't recognize Ray at first, but quickly realizes who he is when Ray stands up, revealing his gun. Without hesitation, Ray shoots Frank, finally avenging his family's murder. Frank doesn't even have time to react. Ray then leaves the pub, gets in his car, and disappears into the night. The story ends with Ray fading into the darkness, leaving a trail of revenge and shattered lives behind him.